fail fast. Why fail fast? Because failure provides the opportunity to learn and course correct. So if something is going to fail, right, it better happen fast. It better happen as soon as possible so that you can recover from it and you can course correct. Failure provides an opportunity to learn unless you try something new, right? You cannot innovate. And when you try something new, there is always risk of it not working out, but that does not mean that there's something gone seriously wrong there. Right? So fear of failure is a classic symptom of an organization having a problem with the mindset of actually being agile. Agile says, embrace change. Right? Agile is all about responding to change. Agile is all about welcoming requirements even late in the development process. Now what happens when you resist change in your mind? A, you are sending wrong signals to the customer, right? You just say, I have all these requirements, now why is the customer coming in, asking for something new? There's a problem there. You may be happy with the way you're doing things with status quo. What does that mean? It leaves no room for continuous improvement. Okay? So there is a problem in keeping an open mind about change. If you're happy with status quo, if you're just happy with working with a fixed scope and not wanting to relook at things as you move along, that is not a good sign in terms of agile adoption and transformation. Right? For me, intrinsic motivation is important from the point of view of achieving excellence. My definition of excellence has two components. One is skill. You need to be good at what you want to do or what you're doing. And the other is passion. And passion comes, which means that you really enjoy what you do and you really want to do something very well. Passion comes from being intrinsically motivated. So from that perspective, intrinsic motivation is important. And this, again, is a function of a lot of things. It's a function of how people are hungry to learn. It's a function of people being open-minded to new ideas. There's a bunch of things which go into intrinsic motivation. But I think this is an important factor which you need to look at when you're seeing whether your organization. I'm given a piece of work to do. I have to develop something. I have to write code. I have to test something. That's all that I will do. And I will not worry about risk issues and concerns. That's not my job. Clearly, that's a bad skill. In Agile, right, the team or the people on the ground are supposed to be most powerful because they are closest to the context. Who knows the risks, issues and concerns that something can go wrong better than the team, right? And if the team is not willing to call those out, there is a problem. There may be multiple reasons why people may not want to do it, but the point is that if they are not doing it, that's an issue. I think the other point is that by the time risk issues and concerns, if you leave it to the senior management, they notice it. By the time those get called out, it might be just too late. Okay? Because information, it will take time to filter out, if at all it filters out in the first place. So the other advantage of having a team, very approach and the traditional approach is that traditional approaches are very task-oriented, right? I have done development, right? The project is 50% done or 75% done, right? That's a task you've done and you measure completion by task done. Whereas Agile believes in value, right? Value delivered to the customer. So task completion, in that sense, is not a true measure of success. And if the team or the organization is still using task completion as a measure of success, then that's a problem. The other issue with this approach is that it creates silos. It says, oh yes, development is done, so I'm done with my job. I don't have to worry about anything else. right? Let the testers do their thing. I'm done with my work, so I'm happy. Can you afford to say something like that? Until something is delivered to the customer and the customer says, yes, I'm happy with this. So, you need to move from task orientation to value orientation. And if the team or the organization has not done that, right, there is a problem. The team is always seeking directions. I'm sure there will be times when you would need to work more, but that cannot be sustainable. Close-mindedness, which means that you are not open to fresh ideas, you are not open to relooking at things. This is in some ways similar to resistance to change, but in some ways it is different as well, and that's why I have brought this point out here again. Why is it different? So the point is that in many organizations it is one or two senior people who decide, what to do next, what is the direction that we need to take, what are the new ideas that need to come in, and everybody else is just expected to follow that. That leads to close-mindedness. That just says, even if I think of something, the organization is never going to listen to me, right? So why should I even worry about it? And that's the problem. You close your mind from thinking and expressing yourself, or thinking something new and talking about it. That's the problem. The point here is, again, one person, but there may be 3, 4, 5, 7 people thinking about it, talking about it, and deciding what best to do next. Then that's good, because it de-risks a lot of things, because the whole team has thought about it. It's not just one person who's thinking about something and deciding on something. And the other point is that you get a variety of ideas, you get fresh ideas, and this assumes that everybody in the team is equal. So why is somebody's opinion who's joined fresh out of college important? Because if that person is fit enough to join the organization and be considered as part of the team, why can't that person bring in fresh ideas? Why can't that person challenge status quo? And why can't his or her ideas be looked at or considered? The key is not to become attached to your ideas. Always keep an open mind. Look at the pros and cons, debate it out, right? And either say, I convince you, or you convince me. Logically, without getting personal, without getting emotional. The key is not to feel bad if your idea is not accepted, right? It means you contributed, people spoke about it, but if the team felt that some other idea is better, yes, that's better for the team. Let's go with it. So I think if this kind of a mindset is not there within the team, to take a back seat when the team says, hey, your idea was good. This is glorifying individuals is another practice which traditional organizations have followed. Clearly the intent is not wrong. The intent is to motivate people. So people who have excelled, people who have done well, the organization, the management wants to reward them, recognize them. But think about this, folks. If the glorification is coming from somebody outside the team, right? What does it do? So for example, let us assume that I'm part of a team and there was some crisis and I worked hard to overcome that. I stayed 8 nights, I somehow saw that the problem was resolved, and the management recognizes them and they say, hey Sunil, you've done a great job, man. How do you think the others in the team will feel? And done by the management is not a good sign. It leads to a lot of antipathies. Yes, special individual efforts need to be recognized, but the trick is to have the team itself recognize that individual. So if my team says, hey Sunil, you've done well, right, we want to recognize you, that kind of glorification is acceptable because the team is doing it. But if the management is doing it, there is a problem. Everybody understands what cross-functional means? Cross-functional means that all the roles which are necessary for the team to be self-sufficient and independent are there in that team. I have seen many organizations which say, hey,
we want to adopt Agile only up to development. Our testers will not be part of this Agile adoption or transformation journey. They are separate. They don't want to be influenced by what the development team is doing. They are the user stories. Developers and testers, you go and develop it, right? The business person is not going to be available to you, or he'll be available or she'll be able to you only on phone calls or only at certain periods of time. How good is that? So a cross-functional team means a team which is self-sufficient, which includes, most importantly, the customer or the business representation in the team. I think if that is missing, as much as you may want to say that you are practicing Agile, and you're saying you're doing all the standards and the retros and everything else, it's not going to give you the results. So it's very important to ensure that the team has the appropriate roles in the right ratios and is co-located to the extent possible, or at least there are communication channels which are open throughout. No levers to negotiate. Let me explain. As I said before, Agile is all about, or one of the key tenets of Agile is adaptive planning, right? Why adaptive planning? Because when you prepare a plan, there is no way you can know all the variables which are going to come in play as you move forward. Whatever approach you may follow Agile, you may follow waterfall, you may follow whatever. But when you prepare a plan, it's good only for what is best known at that moment in time. Right? And what happens when you move forward? You discover something, you find out that whatever you estimated is much bigger than what you thought, and you need to replan. And what are the key elements of replanning? The triangle, the classic triangle, which has three parts to it, right? Scope, time, and cost/capacity. Now, if there is a team which has been told that your scope is fixed, right, which is fixed for that moment in time, and it is safe to assume that the customer is going to come back and say that something is going to change or something is going to get added. So scope is fixed, you're told. Time is fixed, you have to deliver this within this period of time. And this is all the number of people that you want to have in the team, no more. If this is the case, how can you practice agility? If all these three levers are fixed, there is no way a team can practice agility. A team needs to have the ability to negotiate a few things with the customer, right? Or with its senior leadership. So if you discover something new, you have to deal with it. If you discover an estimate which has suddenly grown big, or you discover something which is a technological challenge and you need to do a spike and spend some time to resolve that, something has to give in. Right? Either you need to add people, or you need to increase the time, or you tell the customer, can you deprioritize something? Can we look at picking something up? If this requirement has come in now and it's more important, can we look at something else which we can deliver later? Or maybe cut it out? Unless your team is empowered to do that. Location which is different from where most of the team is. Your business analysts perhaps are also there. And the mindset is to just feed in, only information which is necessary to do the development or so-called development is what they think. If you do not give your team a big picture view, right, the sense of purpose which the team will have will be very minimal. People will be looking at only small components or just fragmented pieces of work. And in terms of challenging status quo, in terms of thinking about new ideas, in terms of innovation, in terms of a sense of belonging, I think that's not a good sign. Right? So the whole team needs to understand why this project is critical for the business, for the customer, why it is so important. Right? What are the levers that the customer is looking at? How is it going to make a difference to the customer's business? I think that is very, very important for the team to understand and internalize. If you do that, you will see the difference in the team's behavior, because the team will get motivated to really work on things which make a difference to the customer. Before I move to the enablers, Any thoughts on any of these? Any more strengths which you might have come across within your organizations? Let me ask you this question. How many of you have been practicing Agile for over a year? Anyone here? I have a very distinguished expert here as part of our audience, and I'm very honored that he's here, Adrian Latter, who's one of the speakers of this conference. Any thoughts, Adrian? Any antibiotic, any smell which comes to my mind, your mind, which I have not covered?
Trying to fix a job to understand.
Yeah. Well said. I think Agile is a continuous journey, right? And it's a process which is a never-ending process. It's not about saying yes, we have done this, so yeah, we are Agile and we stop there. I think that's it. You're causing a downfall just from that moment onwards, actually. Okay, so in the interest of time, I think I'm keeping good on time here. We'll look at some enablers which organizations can put in place.
And celebration does not mean that you always end up, going out, spending money and going out for drinks and dinner. No, not necessarily. Okay. Celebration can mean just as small as a round of applause or claps, right? So, just to give you a small example of celebration, I know an organization where once a story moved to done, right, on the wall, everybody in the team clapped. That's celebrating success at the most smallest level. And that's what we mean by celebrating success. So remember that Agile adoption transformation, actually practicing agility is not as easy as it seems. My own belief is that Agile is very easy to understand, but very difficult to implement, or very difficult to practice. And therefore in this journey, in this difficult journey, right? You have successes, you recognize those and you celebrate those. It just motivates the team, the people, the organization even better to do well. And again, in the spirit of agility, what is important is that you not only recognize what's not working, but you recognize what's working well and try to improve on that, try to do that more often. And therefore, it is important to recognize that and celebrate. This is a classic thing which many organizations do. Actually, I could have called it as a bad smell as well in terms of not following the right metrics. Okay. So, just to give you one example of a wrong metric, which is very commonly seen in many organizations. I have seen most organizations measure the efficiency or the performance of a tester by the number of bugs or defects he or she finds. I hear a lot of laughs here, yeah? A lot of people smiling, a lot of people nodding, right? Now, you tell me, how good is that metric in terms of creating that one team feeling? I am a tester, right? My boss is telling me the more number of defects you find, Sunil, the more bonus you're going to get or the more pay you're going to get. Now, if I am in that state of mind, and a developer who's sitting next to me comes and says, hey Sunil, I have developed this user story. Before I check it in, can you please come and have a look at it on my machine and tell me, broadly whether it's looking alright? What am I thinking at that point in time? If I do that, right, if I point out something wrong even before it is checked in, how am I going to find defects? Why should I cooperate with it? Let him check it in. Let me find out more defects. Let me log those defects in whatever system. And yes, then I'm a hero. God. Think about it, guys. Think about it. Metrics play a very powerful role in influencing people's behavior. Very, very powerful. I work with organizations in change management because Agile mindset requires a lot of change management to come in. And the most powerful or critical element which I have found in influencing change is introducing the right metrics. people behave according to how they are measured by. If you measure something wrong, people will behave in that way. Because for them that is success. What should be the measure of success here? The measure of success here should be bug-free code or customer being. Create a safe environment. Safe environment is where people are not afraid to call out what's not working. In many organizations, right, which are not truly agile in their mindset, if somebody calls out what's not working, either that person is blamed, that you are the cause of the problem, or that person is given the responsibility saying, alright, you pointed out, now you go and fix it. So next time I will not call it out, because if I call out something, it's landing in my lap. It is very important for the organization to have a safe environment where people can express themselves openly, people can call out anti-patterns. This is very, very important for de-risking things from the point of view of continuous improvement, from the point of view of people taking ownership to take things forward, right? And not just leaving all of this to the senior management. People say, yes, whatever you want to say about the problem. That's not a good enabler for working in a distributed way. I know some organizations where if you need a packet of stickies or index cards to write stories, it can take up to 3 weeks for that packet to come in. Why? Because you put a purchase requisition, it will go to the purchase department, they will put an order to the vendor will deliver it to the stores will make an entry, they will then send it to you. How good is that? We need to cut through all this bureaucracy, right? We need to cut through things which are not adding value and which are slowing the team down. We need to look at policies which trust people. For example, in ThoughtWorks, we do not monitor the amount of time somebody is spending at work, because it is assumed that the team knows what that person is doing, and if that person is not performing, the team will give that person the feedback. We don't need unnecessary policing. So we need to look at such policies to come in if you really want people to become agile in their own minds. People who are believers, people who are torchbearers, and when people on the ground see that somebody among themselves is succeeding and can be looked at as a role model, they will be more amenable to changing their mind. And therefore it is important to groom those torchbearers at the ground level so that they can then start influencing the other people who are slow, right, or in the agile adoption chain. That's it, folks. For the lack of time, I will stop here, and I have to limit my presentation to this. There's a lot more that I can speak about, but I'm available in the same iteration itself. Right? There are many organizations where testers are, and again, this is again a broader function of a lot of things. But if the testers are one iteration behind, then that's again not a good sign from a testing perspective. But clearly, I think metrics which are isolated according to a given role and for a set of people are, in my view, by definition not appropriate. I think the metrics have to be measured more at the team level. So it's all about your velocity. It's all about your customer feeling happy with the quality of code delivered. I think that should be more the criteria than and again those things about collaboration, new ideas. Making sure that you're keeping up with the development. I think those are the things that you need to look at when you're looking at specifically from a testing point of view. But I would not have any hard and specific metrics for testers, at least from my perspective, with respect to the adoption. Yes, please.
Maybe the follow-up question. Actually, could you mind carry?
No, that's fine. Okay. So I think in ThoughtWorks, the main metric is customer satisfaction, right? I think that really is the key. And the way we do our evaluation of people, I mean, if you're referring to that, is how do you evaluate somebody's performance, right?
It's all about the team giving feedback to that individual. Okay? So if you're a 10-15 people team, the opinion of other 8, 9, 10 members is what that matters in terms of really giving feedback to that person in terms of how he or she is doing. And I think if there are issues, if that person has slack, if that person is incompetent, all of those things will come out as part of that feedback, because the team works basically so closely, and the project manager or the iteration manager or the scrum masters feedback has only as much weight as any other member of that team, right? So I think your question was more from a performance evaluation perspective, then yes, it is clearly feedback from peers, I think, and obviously feedback from customer and customer satisfaction. These are the two primary metrics that we use. Anything else? Any other questions? People are feeling shy. All right. I think many people may want to talk one-to-one, and I'm more than happy to do that.
Sunil, a
Yes,
question. Yes, so in terms of the metrics, I guess whatever they are, or whether it's customer satisfaction, how do you motivate your team, right? And how does HR get involved in all this?
I think that's a far bigger issue. I don't think I'll be able to do justice to it within a minute or two, but I'm happy to have an offline conversation. I think it starts from recruiting the right people. Okay, it has to begin there. So ThoughtWorks,
And I think really, those kind of things are the key. And HR basically only acts as an enabler rather than an enforcer or a policing type of a person, to just enable that person to perform at his or her best, right? It's about what kind of policies you have. It's about the particular level you are forced to become a manager. Okay. Here it is not like that. So there's a bunch of things that you can do from an HR perspective, but those are very fundamental to your organization's strategy, your policy, and your vision, and it has to be done there. If you have something tactical, that's not going to work. And as I said, it starts from recruiting, it starts with the hierarchy that you have, it starts with the roles and responsibilities that you have, it starts with the feedback systems that you have. All those things come into play. Anybody from that side? No questions from that side at all? Why is only this side speaking? No? Alright, if there are no more questions, then we close this session here. And as I said, feel free to interact with me one-to-one whenever you like. Thank you.